Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corpin here with School Transportation News. Excited to have you. This episode is brought to you by Transfinder, the leader in school bus routing software. And we've got a great tech tip from Premier Wireless, the experts in school bus technology solutions. Also, a little later, Ms. Taylor Hannon will be speaking with Nicole Portee, Assistant Superintendent of Operations at Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools in North Carolina. And Nicole was a friend of ours from Denver for quite a while. So it's great to see her back in the mix. And I've also got my illustrious co-host, Mr. Ryan Gray.
Hello, everybody. Yes, so welcome back. It's always good to catch up with everyone here on the podcast. And yeah, absolutely want to hear what Taylor has to ask Nicole in a little bit. You mentioned that her friendship with us goes back to her days at Denver Public Schools. She was the director of transportation, executive director of transportation there for several years. And she was actually our STN director of the year in 2018 before she moved to North Carolina. And she is now, of course, as you mentioned, at Charlotte-Mecklenburg and the assistant superintendent of operations. So congratulations to her, and looking forward to hearing what she has to say.
Yeah, excellent, Ryan. Thanks for that. And guys, just as a reminder, you can follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. So be sure and share this amongst your community, social media, get the word out, make sure all your friends get a chance to listen to all the good content we have here on the School Transportation Nation. And speaking of good content, we're talking STN EXPO, Ryan. I know you've been working diligently on building out the agenda. It's like herding cats sometimes with speakers, right? We're trying to get everybody, all the experts ready to engage the audience and discuss kind of the big topics happening. So what's on your agenda, Ryan? Any big highlights you want to talk about for maybe STN Expo Indianapolis and STN Expo Reno?
Absolutely. Well, one of the big additions that we were able to secure late last month was the return, thankfully, of the National School Bus Inspection Program. So that one had kind of gone on the side burner for a bit. We did launch it in 2019 in both Indy and Reno. And then guess what happened? COVID-19 took the wind out of our sails, took the wind out of a lot of people's sails. Certainly in the event business, COVID-19 was quite a burdensome issue to deal with. But here we are, 2022. Happy to say the National School Bus Inspection Program is back. So we are working with Mike Bullman, who is the State Director of Transportation of the South Carolina Department of Education, as well as Bobby Williams, who's the Assistant Director of Fleet Services for Cypress Fairbanks ISD in Houston. So those gentlemen will be leading the charge for us in Indianapolis on Saturday, June 4th. And then we're going to have that in Reno as well on July 16th. So stay tuned for details. But definitely, we've had a lot of interest, Tony, and a lot of folks asking us, hey, when's this going to come back? And we've kind of been, hey, we've been riding out the storm. And of course, doing the events, we are always so reliant upon our instructors. And folks have just been not eager to travel up until now. So that has been opening up. So again, looking forward to having that. In terms of Indy, some other highlights, you can head over to stnexpo.com/east and go to our agenda page. Just go to the attendees drop down and click on agenda. But a couple of items, we're going to be looking at catastrophic memory failure and a correspondence to leaving students on the bus. That's always a big issue.
Big safety issue, Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those big things with driver training. And, so many districts have zero tolerance for that. If it happens when you're a driver, hey, you're gone. So Dr. David Diamond from the University of South Florida is going to be looking at that issue, looking at some data actually from the state of Indiana. And I've been looking into that, and there's a lack of data in a lot of other states. So that'll be a really interesting way to start off the conference. And of course, we have our keynote, Sam Richter, also another keynote, Jason Hewlett. Some of you who were in Reno in December might remember him. So we're looking at technology. We're trying to get some information on cybersecurity, ensuring staff health and well-being, and emergency response. So a lot of good topics coming up in June.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And guys, make sure you register. You can lock in that early bird rate. Take advantage of that $100 off discount. It's good through, it's still good, I think, through the end of April. So we've got a little bit of time, but don't wait too long. Make sure and get your reservation set. It's going to be here before you know it. And then also, I've been working closely, Ryan and I have both been working closely with NSTA, the National School Transportation Association, on a new award, the Innovator Award. So this is an award that we wanted to put together with NSTA to kind of identify an individual working for a private contractor that's doing something kind of transformational in their operation and looking more towards green energy, safety, operations, technology. Is there someone out there that would be a great nominated candidate for this award? If you do, you can go on the stnonline.com website, find that story on Innovator Award, and there's a form right there for you to fill out and nominate maybe a friend, a colleague, associate, a client, somebody you might know that might exemplify someone who is an innovator. So highly recommend giving recognition when it's due, and here's a platform to do it. And the winner will also be highlighted in our July issue of STN Magazine. So excited to share that and bring it to the industry. All right, Ryan, I know we're also trying to drum up some nominees for our Garage Stars as well. You want to give us a little more info on that?
Yeah, so August issue is when we look at our garage stars. So fleet managers, fleet technicians, foremen, or for women who are leading the charge in the garage. So we are actively taking nominations right now. You have a little over a month left to get those nominations in. So May 13th is the deadline. So head over to stnonline.com for more information on that.
All right, Ryan, I know we had a big announcement from the FCC that you guys talked about, you and Miss Taylor Hannon, our associate editor.
Yes.
A little bit more about the Emergency Connectivity Fund, also known as ECF, to help schools and libraries basically access broadband connectivity for learning. And the third application window has now, it's going to open. It was announced. So It's going to open here on April 28th and close on May 13th, which is a pretty slim window, right? That's not a lot of days to apply, but they are giving everybody kind of fair warning here about a month out that this is coming. Now, guys, if you didn't apply for it in round 1 and 2, this is most likely the last round. There's about $1 billion that's been allocated in the program. And, Ryan and I and Taylor have all been talking about, what are the hesitations? What are the reservations that people have when looking at using Wi-Fi on a school bus, right? Is it student behavior? Is it the actual extension of the classroom? We always say the school bus is an extension of the classroom. But, if there's not a learning component or access to broadband, then maybe it's not as conducive of an environment for learning, right? And I think there's a use case, right? Short routes, maybe it's not as useful as maybe longer distance routes. And a lot of kids have phones and devices, but this is also supposed to help the crowd that's the free and reduced lunch crowd, where you have more economically challenged areas where kids may not have a phone, they may not have access to broadband. It's kind of something I know I take for granted, right? I just have it, but there's a lot of people that don't have it. So this is a great way to give students that may not have access to much needed data and information. So I'm a big fan of Wi-Fi on school buses. I really think that it's a great use case. And if the federal government is willing to give you guys $1 billion to go out and put it on your buses, I think that's probably a pretty good idea.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah. Dedicated $1 billion or just about, what we're sensing out of the industry. And we actually, are going to be leaning in on this topic more in our May issue coming up. We asked currently asking readers, are Wi-Fi equipped school buses still important to your school district now that COVID-19, the pandemic is kind of, I guess, ending or getting more into endemic world now. We're just going to have to live with this and all the other infectious diseases out there. Certainly during the height of the pandemic, when all the lockdowns first happened, school buses were mobilized nationwide to deliver those hotspots into communities as students went to virtual learning. But now, I mean, the 99% or so of schools nationwide are open, have been open for in-person learning. So we asked our readers, what's the importance of Wi-Fi to you guys? And tellingly, 64% so far have said, no, Wi-Fi is no longer important to us in terms of school bus hotspots. So again, I think that what we're seeing is people and administrations have made a decision, hey, we're not doing the virtual learning in mass anymore, so we don't need these hotspots. Or maybe they already have them and they figure, okay, we have what we need. A lot of folks that I've talked to over the past 2 years or so, and some of these folks have Wi-Fi. They've told me, in terms of the ECF funding, they're not interested. And I've asked them, well, why? And, one student transporter in New Mexico told me, hey, we've already made the plans. We've already gone and we're working toward outfitting all of our school buses with Wi-Fi. They're in the northeast part of the state, very rural. So they do have long routes. And of course, not just the routes, think about all the athletic trips and the activity trips, taking bands to competitions. A lot of school districts have made the decision already that they want to go to this. So they've already found funding and already have mechanisms in place. And then there's also, I think, the feeling from a lot of folks that they don't like to be tied to federal money. And you think, what? That doesn't make sense. But I think so many times in talking to people, they wonder about what that money might mean in terms of strings attached. Is there additional reporting they have to do? It just, sometimes you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. We talk about like school buses and student transportation is so historically underfunded in terms of what the federal government does. But yet when they bring money to the table, people are hesitant to take it because they wonder, what do I have to do for it? So again, it's a very small window, as you mentioned, Tony. That's been the case with the previous 2 rounds as well of ECF. Be interesting to see what the acceptance rate is of this. That's the reason why there is this 3rd round, right? Because there's money left over. They're trying to give this money away, and they're having issues. People taking it. So those are just some of the things that I've gleaned. I want to hear from you all. Feel free to jump on our Facebook page, facebook.com/STN Magazine. Tell us, why have you or why have you not accepted ECF in your district? Are you going to apply for this 3rd round? Are you not?
Yeah, Ryan, I think it really does come down to finding the right partner as well, and really understanding kind of what the benefits are. And as I've talked to quite a few companies out there, the big conversation is can you use the connectivity to power a larger technology stack, kind of live view cameras or GPS or some of the other tech on the bus that you might be paying for that data. This allows you to potentially piggyback on the technology and not have to pay for that and get reduced costs. So, there's definitely an idea there to consider the benefit, not simply just the connectivity, but also, can it power some of the other devices that you have on your buses? So, we have a tech tip this week from Premier Wireless, the experts in school bus technology solutions, and they're a great partner to talk to about ECF. And, Wi-Fi is everywhere except on the school bus, and Premier's Connect Ed Wi-Fi solution turns travel time into extended learning time by enabling students to study while riding on the bus to and from school, making them better prepared for class and improving those test scores. The Emergency Connectivity Fund provides the necessary funding to add Wi-Fi to your school buses today. This is likely the last application window, and it opens April 28th and closes in 2 weeks later on May 13th. To learn more, contact Premier Wireless today at 281 667-0400 or visit them online at premierwireless.com. All right, coming up next, we've got a great interview with Nicole Portee from Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools with our own Taylor Hannon. And I'll also be talking with Antonio Civitella, the president and CEO of Transfinder. He's got a really exciting announcement and wants to share it with you, nation. Coming up next. All right, guys, super excited to bring to the podcast stage Mr. Antonio Civitella, President CEO of Transfinder. Welcome, buddy.
Hey, Tony. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I want to dive right in with you. There's been a lot of talk lately about the cost of fuel, the cost of the driver shortage, just the stress and anxiety that it's causing in transportation. And you have thousands of clients. So I can only imagine they're calling you trying to find out how Transfinder can really optimize their routes. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what the environment is right now, what you're doing? What are some new technologies? What are the things you're doing to advise your clients to kind of help mitigate the pain of this situation?
Well, the topic is really top of mind at this point. We've gotten prospects and districts calling us that in the past, they really didn't want to talk to us. They had maybe a brand X product or Y or Z, and like, oh, we're happy with this product. But now at this point, they're realizing that these products today need to have really the artificial intelligence optimization. And we've coined it. It's AIO, which means you got to be able to have a system, a routing system that could take your local knowledge and build optimized routes, which means they're efficient, they're safe, and it'd be as optimal as possible, considering a lot of different things. The layover, something that we've talked about for a while, the layover time. In other words, if I shift some trips around, well, what's the layover time? You guys all, when you traveled and you get off at Wing A at Gate 8, right? You have to now walk from 8 to B9. Well, normally your layover is 30 minutes, but what about it takes you 35 minutes just to walk there? Well, then really your layover is not just how much time in between. You have to also count how much time it takes you to drive there or walk there. So really, when you're looking at all this optimization, it's complex. It's not just let's find the most efficient trip. Let's optimize it. Well, what does it affect the next one, especially if you have multiple tiers? So these are our elements that clients are not even thinking about at this point. As I were talking about, that's like, oh, wow, you're right. So a lot going on. Our clients are looking for ways to find efficiencies. And as we talk about, hey, do you know that you need to consider the layover time? And everyone understands the whole airport concept. We're all like, we don't have enough, and we're running through the airport, but you just don't have enough time. If the gate was right next to the gate you just got off, you have plenty of time. So that's the part of being, it's not just let's find the most efficient way to go from stop 1 to stop 2 to stop, the 30th stop. You have to consider the next route. And that's when parents start getting mad. If you're the first run, you're normally okay. It's the second one. It's the third one. It's the domino effect. So, Tony, our clients and really prospective clients are coming to us saying, we got to get a better handle of this problem.
How does the technology work? I know there's the alphabet soup of the letters and what they stand for. And how does it actually work? If I'm in transportation and I've got routing, how do you actually implement that so it doesn't have that kind of cascading effect, as you kind of said, right? Because if you don't consider the next route, it then is this domino effect that affects everything else that day. And then you've got a lot of angry parent calls and dissatisfaction, and it just isn't good. So what does that look like in terms of if I'm interested in kind of implementing that kind of solution?
Tony, what our clients do, we call it travel scenarios. They actually get to bake this information. They know this. By the way, every couple days a week, my son misses the bus and I have to take him to school. And I realize coming out of the school, and of course, all these buses now are leaving for the next tier. And there's this left-hand turn that sometimes if you get it wrong, you're waiting 5 minutes there. Well, normal routing system or just using a map, well, you don't know that at that time of day, it takes 5 minutes. So how do you then avoid that left-hand turn to go pick up some more kids? That's the type of information saying that in the morning, let's try to avoid that left-hand turn. And that's the type of things that you're putting that information. You're no local knowledge. That left-hand turn is no problem in the afternoon, but in the morning, everybody's going left. So how do you try to stay away from it? And again, everyone's got those intersections. Everyone's got those roads to stay away from. So once you start slowly adding this information, our product becomes smarter. It literally starts realizing, because there's a problem. Optimize routes for decades. We've learned from our clients, they didn't trust it. Yeah, it looks optimized, but then when you look at it on paper, it looks great. Wow, I just saved 30% of my buses. But then you look at it, it's like, well, that's not possible. No one could make it that quick. You can't do this. It's not possible. You're not allocating how much time kids should get on a bus, right? All those variables were not considered. But when you start saying, hey, let's slowly start putting more of your local information, now you could trust when a routing system optimizes these trips. That's really the key, is that they could slowly start adding those, avoid that left-hand turn in the morning. Don't go on that road. And again, there's a difference between beginning of the school year, middle, and toward the end. Well, the whole layover concept, well, have a district policy to have enough layover between trips. That way, as you're manipulating things throughout the year, adding stops, you don't want that layover to be so tight that the next kid you add to this trip, now you can't make it. And so these are all variables that make the system as smart as possible. That way it can optimize for you, because that's really the big thing. Our clients have had other products that claim they optimize. They don't trust it. They didn't trust it. So how many people say, yeah, we don't even press that button. We don't even do it. Like, why? You bought a system that says you could optimize. Why did you not do it? And then they tell us all those reasons. And that's really what we've built. We built a system that they could overcome those obstacles.
That's great. So I was on your website recently and I saw that you're promoting a birthday bash. Is it somebody's birthday at Transfinder coming up? What's going on with that?
That's a good one. I am super pumped for this. So Roughfinder Plus is the product that I've been talking about, is turning 2. So it's 2 years that we actually have had it in the market. More than half of our clients are now in that platform, which was something I couldn't even dreamt of when we released it 2 years ago. So more than 50% of our clients are in that platform. All of our brand new clients are all starting in that platform. As of today, we've brought in almost 150 brand new clients on board in this new product just in this first quarter. So significant amount of activity. So I'm super pumped with the success we're having with this product, and the demand is so high. Tony, we are been hiring at a fastest rate that we've ever hired at Transfinder, just to be prepared and help our clients as fast as possible. I want all of our clients to know that help is on its way. We are bringing on as many people as possible to help them solve their immediate needs to be as efficient as possible. So yeah, there's a big birthday bash. If you want to register and see the activity and have some fun, you can go on our homepage on transfinder.com and sign up and see the fun. But we're going to hear about this new version that we're releasing next week, which is just one of the largest upgrade of not just our routing product, but our entire suite, our package. There's a lot of the Finder products that we're releasing to our clients, so you'll hear a lot.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast and sharing a little bit with us. I know I signed up for the birthday bash, so I'm definitely going to be there to celebrate with you. I want to hear about it. I think it's you've got some different clients that are speaking and talking, and who knows, maybe there'll be some presents handed out. Usually birthday parties, there's presents, maybe some cake. So virtual.
Definitely cake, Tony. There's going to definitely be cake. I will definitely somehow explain the taste over the the webinar. I'll explain the texture and how it is. So definitely. So please come register and see what's the excitement. What are we talking about here? What is all this AIO? What is all this optimization? Again, it's just you're going to hear a lot about what we're doing right after the birthday bash too.
Wonderful. Thanks for jumping on, Tony. Appreciate you. All right. Taylor Hannon is coming up next with Nicole Portee, the Assistant Superintendent of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. Excited to hear that.
All right. Hello, nation. It is great to be back for another week. Today, I have a special guest with me, Nicole Portee. She is the Assistant Superintendent of Operations for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools in North Carolina. So that's the 17th largest school district across all of the U.S. So that's exciting. Hello, Nicole. Welcome.
Hello. How are you?
Good. And I know you were joking earlier that it's nice to be out of the Colorado snowstorm.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So for those that don't know Nicole, I don't know how you don't, but she was STN's Transportation Director of the Year in 2018. So we have an article in the November issue of that year, also featured on our cover. Been a speaker at some of our conferences. And then recently, she's been in a couple of online and print articles. So definitely having her on the podcast right now is very timely. I know in February, we celebrated Black History Month. So Nicole kind of shed input into that, being a Black female in the industry. And then in April, we looked at transportation and administration working together. So that is out now. By the time you guys are listening to this, the April issue is out. So definitely check out her thoughts on that. And then, of course, March was Women's History Month. So we're just throwing it all together. Yeah.
Yes.
Very timely for you to be here with us. So instead of our listeners listening to me explain your career path, Nicole, why don't you kind of share your progression to your current position?
Yes, I have actually been in operations probably over 30 years and working for school districts for about 20. I actually went to work for a school district, Denver Public Schools, as a result of wanting to be more involved in my children's education. And I recall having an interview at 6 a.m., not truly understanding why they would want me to interview at 6 a.m. But what I've later realized that it was that in transportation, the department starts really early. And that was one of the areas that they wanted to see how I would respond to. So one, I don't know why I agreed to 6 a.m., but I did. And I actually interviewed at 6 a.m. And that really started my path off in transportation and in working in the school district and working with children. And so I did most of my career in Denver Public Schools, working through the training and safety department, up through becoming a terminal manager, which is kind of overseeing a percentage of the employees and bus routes, and which eventually kind of led me into the executive director role, which I served in for about, I want to say 10 years. And that sort of took off from there. It laid sort of the foundation for a lot of the work that I was able to achieve over the course of my career there, working in transportation, but also having the ability to work cross-functionally within the district, working with the city and county of Denver, serving on multiple boards, the Colorado State Pupil Transportation Association. I served on some school boards, charter school boards at one point, all for the purpose of just trying to stay connected to education and educational outcomes for students. And so with that work, I was just involved in a lot of different efforts to drive innovation. Denver is a huge innovation district. So with choice, enrollment zones, I had the opportunity to really showcase a lot of the work that I had, me and my team, because I don't think that I'd be able to do it by myself, but had a very supportive team in Denver that helped with the work there and just trying to create more access for students. That has always been my focus, just to create more access for students. And so that had led me to wanting to do more in operations, taking my knowledge in transportation, and then eventually relocated to Greensboro, North Carolina, where I was delighted to join the Guilford County Schools team as a senior executive director of operations. And transportation happened to be one of my teams that I was providing oversight. And that sort of led us into COVID. And fast forwarding, Charlotte-Mecklenburg had opportunity for the assistant superintendent of operations. And I am delighted to join this team. I've been here probably about 30 days.
So a lot of knowledge, right? Yes. Of these 30 days.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you kind of mentioned that transportation is one of your operations that you look at now, but what does a day-to-day kind of look like for you? Do you call it MCS?
CMS?
CMS.
Yes.
Here at CMS.
So one of the priorities in this particular role as assistant superintendent is to support the chief operating officer as he leads the operations here at Charlotte-Mecklenburg. It has been used to ensure that one of our goals is to deliver upon the supports and services that they are seamless. That includes transportation, which is huge here with the school district here has about 140,000 students. And so here, transportation is really huge. So it's one of the departments. We have school nutrition, we have facility maintenance, construction, as well as community use. And so a lot of our work expands off to ensuring that we are providing seamless and responsive, cost-effective service.
Okay, I like it. So coming from transportation and now sitting in this assistant superintendent of operations kind of role, how are you able to appreciate both aspects of the district and maybe see a more wholesome view as opposed to just being in transportation and just being in administration?
I think every district focuses in on priorities, strategic goals, and sort of this expected outcome that they want for students. And I think that, especially in this role and having come from transportation, I really do believe that we play a huge role in creating conditions that support high quality teaching and learning. If the buses don't arrive or if kids' food is not available, it impacts the overall educational day for our students. And so I think the commonality among the role as a director or the role as an administrator is that you serve as a champion to inspire and sort of direct your team to support students. I think that each of the positions, whether it's the assistant superintendent or transportation director, it's really about making sure that we can provide access to students and support the goals of the district as well as the superintendent.
And I know something that you said to me when we were recording for the April issue was that if you're a transportation director or a school bus driver, don't just think like, oh, I'm a transportation director. Like really look at your role and say, okay, how does this affect the entire district? Like, what am I doing that meets the district goals? And I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, I think, each position that we hold, when you think about the school district, it's like all of our positions exist for a reason, right? It's like they all have to work together for the greater good of our students. And so I really do believe that we all work toward providing greater access to those students and ensuring that we can, support their educational outcomes. But I think it has to be done through relationship building, with staff and schools and our communities. We have to be open to receiving feedback, getting out there and doing site visits if we can, and even working with our kids. So our students that we work with on a day-to-day basis, it's not just really about providing the service, but it's really about making sure that the services that we provide truly meet the need.
And so kind of jumping off of that, what advice would you give to transportation or superintendents who just don't have that good relationship? Where can they start? What's the first kind of step?
I have always been an advocate that good relationships between transportation directors and superintendents are very beneficial. Transportation assists districts through all types of things. We talk about access, that we provide access, we bring kids to school, but without access, kids don't eat. Like, we're giving them access, and we serve as a gateway to accessing education, meals, field trips, sports events. And in some states, transportation is provided, for graduation. And so I think transportation can assist districts through all types of adjustments that they often look at, such as bell times, boundary changes, or anything that would require a change to transportation. Year over year, a lot of districts or transportation directors are faced with a change or adjustment in bell times. And sometimes those changes are made without transportation input. And later, what happens is we see that we have to make adjustments, but it's sometimes at the cost of our students. And so I think if transportation directors and superintendents work together, they can mitigate some of the impacts that sometimes cause some pain for parents. We can make sure that we're talking through how this impacts parents, the parent voice, how it's going to impact enrollment, or any other type of systemic issues that could initiate as a result of that change.
Mm-hmm. And I know I was talking to a superintendent in Idaho, and she was kind of saying, it's not that we want transportation to be on the back burner. It's just that they're not in the same building as us. We don't see them every day. And unfortunately, transportation just kind of falls off the radar. And so I think making those connections and having a more, direct effort to engage with them, I think that's a huge, huge advice and a huge step.
Absolutely. Well, the good thing is that, since COVID, I think every school district has really pushed using technology as a means to make those connections and bringing, more departments to the table to collaborate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seeing people, face to face over virtual. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So looking at Denver to North Carolina, what are some big differences statewide that kind of jumped out to you in your move?
Absolutely. Great question. Denver is a district that is a choice district, which, choice really allows parents to pick and choose what schools they want their students to attend. So I've come from a choice district, a district that was very innovative with enrollment zones and just trying to be creative at the helm of trying to meet the needs of the students, where transportation played one of the key roles in supporting those changes. And there was somewhat autonomy based on how district decisions were made. In Denver, they have the ability to make lots of different decisions. The Board of Education drives a lot of the goals and direction of the district, like any other district. However, I would say that the difference between Denver and North Carolina is that in Denver, decisions about funding, grants, the ability to access different types of grants and being able to apply for them certainly lies with the transportation director and conversation simply with the COO. Here in North Carolina, a little bit different, where Department of Public Instruction, which is similar to Department of Education, just a different name, a lot of the information, direction, access to grants, access to different types of, I won't say different types of programs, but the ability to access funding and or support for alternative vehicles. A lot of that sort of funnels through the Department of Education. Here, they've done a very great job with keeping districts informed. What are those available resources? Right now, we're dealing with the crisis, the fuel crisis and costs going up. And so as a result, certainly Department of Public Instruction here has kept them informed about how they can mitigate or steps that they should be taking or things that they should be thinking about as a result. Because, of course, with funding that comes from the state, certainly that's going to have some level of an impact on school districts as a result of the increased cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you guys noticed a spike in diesel fuel prices?
Yes. We were actually just taking a look at, we were paying, kind of an average of $2.30, a little over that. And now that sort of spiked to about $3.53. And so as a result, that has an impact to your budget and what you've allocated. And so the good thing is that, we're in April opposed to, it being August and this happened.
Right. Yeah, we have an article up on that, and the transportation directors kind of shared that they had to put some programs on the back burner in order to kind of fund that fuel spike. So
yeah,
definitely being felt. I think it's $6 here in California. I just went and filled up my car. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's, especially now that school districts are opening up, and I won't say opening up, but there's, the states are opening up and being able to do a little bit more. I do anticipate typically toward the end of the school year, there are a lot more field trips. There's a lot more kids, going to different types of events. So I know it's going to have an impact. Mm-hmm. In Mecklenburg, we have about 932 yellow buses on the road, and we are transporting about 73,000 students.
Wow. So lots of kids.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And you mentioned the funding a little bit, but are you guys going after any alternative fuel buses, looking at electric or propane?
Yes. So the big thing is electric, and there has been some opportunities presented through Department of Public Instruction that would allow us to apply to receive some buses. I do know that one of the other counties here has already moved on that, but electric seems to be the way to go. I think the bigger conversation is really around the infrastructure and the cost associated with that, especially here where we have tons of different locations where buses reside. We're thinking very strategically about how we would implement that.
Mm-hmm. And the Clean School Bus Program from the EPA does open at the end of this month. So if that's something, for our listeners to, definitely take advantage of that, because that's money for electric school buses, money for clean school buses, low emissions, that kind of thing.
Yes. Sustainability is huge, I think, as we think about clean air and contributing to the environment. That is one of the questions that we do get from our community in regards to how is transportation, assessing or handling or contributing to clean air.
Yes. So I know, it's only been 30 days, but what are some goals? Do you have any goals going forward for yourself, Nicole?
Yes. So I am planning on, my ultimate goal is to become a chief operating officer. And so while I'm here at Charlotte-Mecklenburg, certainly my goal is to, try to work as hard as I can to make impact. It's certainly not an approach that, I'm coming in just to get to that role. But anytime I join a team or come into a new district, I'm really focused in on trying to make sure that I'm making impact, that I'm making a difference for the students. I think every district is unique. Even coming from Denver to Guilford to Charlotte-Mecklenburg, I think the goal is always the same about making sure that we can support our kids. But I think in terms of my career, I think what I give and how I contribute is key. And so I'm excited about just all the opportunities that I have here. And I think once the opportunity comes for me to step into that role, I'm hoping to be ready to step in that role and move forward. I don't know where that's going to be. Perhaps it may be here one day, but I certainly want to do the best job that I can. And I think that people have seen just the passion and the commitment throughout my career. And so I think that's what has led me to be able to grow as part of my career.
Yeah, and I definitely would second that. Just from reading the November article, you have clearly made a name for yourself at Denver Public Schools. I know our producer, Claudia, wrote that article. So if you guys haven't read it, definitely go check it out.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, just reading about your accomplishments there, certainly you will go on and do great things at whatever school district you are at. So very excited to follow your career.
Thank you. Thank you. I've met some amazing leaders, amazing transportation directors out there that I still keep in contact with. And I think, I would not be where I am without them supporting. I think the transportation community, we're a tight-knit community. And I think that anytime you need something, all you got to do is send over an email or pick up the phone or send them a text message. And they're just so responsive. Mm-hmm. And they've just been great. I have some really, really great colleagues in Denver, really across the country.
Awesome. Well, before I let you go, is there any parting advice you would like to give to anyone listening or any last minute thought?
I just want to, for any listeners or anyone who's saying, okay, what about this Nicole Portee? I want to just let them know to just follow your passion. If your passion is to grow in, transportation or to grow in a school district and follow your passion, stay committed to what you put your mind to. I think as a leader, we're not only operation folks, but we're educational leaders, and we all play a critical role in this thing called education. We work, we have to work collaboratively. I would say always keep in mind, work collaboratively and work cross-functionally. Never become siloed. Always try to make sure that you are learning different aspects of the district, how it functions and how it affects your work. And I think when people see you doing that, they will know that you are someone who is trying to make a difference for each and every student. So follow your heart, follow your goal, your passion, your destiny, and it will lead you there, lead you to whatever your ultimate goal is.
Yeah, I think super important. I greatly appreciate it, Nicole, just coming on here, sharing your knowledge. You have so much to share. So I feel like I'm learning from you on the other side of the screen. So thank you so much.
Yes. And tell those guys, Tony and Ryan, I said hello.
Oh, yes. I know Ryan wishes he could have been here, but something came up. So I had to fill in for him.
Yes. Well, SDN is certainly has always created a platform for those to come and share their expertise. So I have truly appreciated working with them and supporting SDN. And I find myself always telling people, do you get SDN? If not, you need to sign up for it.
Yeah, we have newsletters. You can get physical magazines. Yeah, no, it's great. Yep. Well, I hope to see you at a future conference one of these days.
Absolutely. And I hope to be there. Yeah. I hope to be there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Hey, great interviews today, guys. Really appreciate you all. Nicole Portee, Antonio Civitella, Miss Taylor Hannon, Ryan Gray. Shout out to everybody. We appreciate you. Couldn't do it without our sponsors as well, Transfinder and Premier Wireless. Thank you guys for supporting this podcast episode. Guys, visit us, stnonline.com, for all the latest and greatest on everything happening in the school transportation industry. Also, don't forget to register STN EXPO, Indianapolis, June 3rd through the 7th. And we have SCN Expo in Reno, Nevada. That is July 15th through the 20th, plus our Green Bus Summit. So can't miss that new this year. Go to scnexpo.com for all the details and to get registered. Check out the agendas, networking events, exhibitors, everything that you possibly could need for your operations, safety, technology, ops, special needs, maintenance. We've got it all for you. So we'd love to have you join us this year. Guys, don't forget, stream the podcast, follow us, tell your friends, get the word out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, stnpodcast.com. We love you, nation. We'll talk to you next week. Take care. Love you.